specialists. I know Cowboy would, but they're not the specialists. They don't know it all. And that's another issue that I hit quite a bit. They want control of it, but they don't. They interfere, which is disruptive. And they're not using the people who know and can make the projects just improve the execution and the implementation of the project so much easier. They like to step in, or they won't take accountability when they need to. There's a whole mess of different issues that you get with these sort of size companies.
Hey everybody, it's Cowboy and Mark back again with a new guest, and I think we are at episode 15. And Mark, you want to give us a little bit of a lead in here?
Who, me? Yeah, sure. Today's guest is called Mickey, or Michaela to give her full name, Keene, who I think we go back, Mickey, to about 1998 from when we first met, and you did some of our courses, and we kind of kept in touch for a while. Then we were in the States, then you went off and did your thing, and then you actually got back about stuff with your son on some of our courses and things, and we've been talking ever since. And the reason that I wanted you on the call, Mickey, and and obviously saying it for the listeners and watchers, is because you're kind of an interesting hybrid of project management, which is Uncle Bill Cowboy territory, but you're also a business owner of a long time, and done the things. Plus, even now, as I'm getting to know your husband, that you two, he's project management-y and doing things too. So you're right at the coalface of some of the conversations before you started to get involved in one of our projects that may come up on the call today. That what really got my attention was kind of I don't know whether it's called disappointment, Mickey, or just what you're seeing in the world of work. And you're in those projects now, which I'm not so much. And Bill does the things that he does, but the size of companies that you work in is so on point to our audience that are trying to get better in this execution piece and trying to get better at, why have we got all these tools but nothing's working? That's what we hear. Why have business owners, in my lovely wife's vernacular, will shove us up my backside and I'll sweep the floor as I go as well? Everybody's doing so much. Actually, they're not doing anything well. And I just wanted to, get you on the podcast to be able to talk to that place from your point of view, because you run projects and you were very aware of the difficulties of launching projects, and whether it's management or leadership. So just give people a little bit in your terms as to your end of how you come to be here, some of the projects and some of the things that you're involved in. Yeah. Start there, and then I want to know the problems you've seen out there.
Okay. Yeah, so I've been in IT for as long as dinosaurs have roamed the earth, and going with bespoke software projects, making sure that people had the right solutions in their companies for what they needed to run. But then getting into that, it was some of these projects weren't successful. They weren't being used. The systems weren't being used. So it just wasn't any good. And one of the big things that I picked up on was a lot of projects are about the people themselves. So I actually started looking at change management, because that's the big piece. And certainly for some of the projects now that I go into, where I'm looking at issues and troubleshooting projects. So I don't go in necessarily from the start when it's all great and you can line up the objectives and the project plan properly. I actually often go in where it's in a bit of a state. So many of the things, well, actually it's two key things that I find are the issues with a lot of projects. And that is the leadership, and we're talking here, the top team. Are they actually on board with the project? Yeah, they want it done, but they want somebody else to do it. They don't want to get involved. And that is so much of a problem, because then people just don't want to, or don't see it as important to the company. And the second thing is the communication within those projects. They're probably the two key things that I find are the biggest letdowns. And of course, one of Cowboy's passions, not having a proper plan. I walked into one project where the guy who was running it, I was asking, where is the project plan? And it was getting so heated, this conversation. He basically, in the end, did a Jack Nicholson explosion of, the plan's in my head. That's all it needs to be, in my head. And it's just, but how does anybody else understand what that plan is, what we're trying to achieve, what the objectives are, what the risks are? So, yeah, it's quite challenging out there at the moment, I'm finding.
And if we bet Cowboy loose on that, he's going to go. On the one hand, and this is one of the reasons I wanted Mickey on the call, Cowboy, because I know where you're going to go on leadership buy-in. He's going to tell a story, Mickey, about he locked the CEO out of the damn blah, 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 because that's who he is. But I know that I guess the world isn't always like that. And whether it's you as an experienced project manager, now he might say, project manager to project manager, you need to take more control. And that's a conversation we can get into. But at the same time, that type of story is so removed for some people. And that's why my job is always, how does this apply to people in their businesses in Bournemouth, in Alabama, where you two have just come back from? How does it apply today to their position? So go on then, Cowboy. You can either go what you would do, or Mickey, have you already got it clear in your mind of what you do now do in that lack of leadership buy-in position before? Because you know what he's going to come out with. He's going to come out rootin' tootin'.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
I mean, it's no different than Saudi. I mean, she's now finding out that I was in Ukraine for the war and everything else, and during that time, I was back and forth between Saudi Arabia and Ukraine. I was the project management office manager for the Ministry of Interior of Saudi. And they called me. I didn't fill out a fucking application. And they originally called me in August, and I didn't go there until December because in the process, I'm sure, of researching me, they're like, God, do we really want this guy? And then they managed to fuck it up so good. They said, bring him out. I showed up with my hat and boots and everything else, and they're like, yeah, okay. You know? But I started with the plan. You know, immediately when I walked in the office, I was like, give me the contract in English because it was written in Arabic. And so I went through the contract, and then the first guy I called in was the risk management guy who had been interim project manager. And he was complaining that no one managed their risks. So this is like your guy who had the plan in his head. And I said, okay, you're a certified risk, PMI certified risk project manager, all right? And you're PMP. How do you build your project plans? He said, well, I sit in the meeting, I listen to things, I identify them as risk, I give them a probability and impact, and I assign a person to them. And I'm like, I just heard I. Where the fuck did you actually end up talking to somebody who volunteered to take on that risk and manage it? He goes, well, I don't. I just assign it to him. And I'm like, not counting today, how long have you been working on this project? Because get the fuck out of here. I mean, sorry, you gotta go. All right? And you wanted to be the PMO manager? I mean, that doesn't work.
How do you deal with that, though, when you're actually talking to one of the company directors? You can't say, you've got to go. You might want to, and trust me, I've had those conversations.
Actually, I just locked him out of the building.
That's the point, though, Bill, isn't it? Totally, Mickey, that's why I said why I wanted Mickey on the call, because I know she faces that problem, and that company director isn't going anywhere.
No.
They're not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so I'll tell you exactly what I did with one project. It was 2007. I had to go to Pennsylvania for a while. I went back to Texas to get my stuff. They were paying for me to move up to Pennsylvania for a while. And I was getting on the phone. I was talking to my guys, and they're like, "Well, the vice president came in here and retasked us after he left. After you left." And I'm like, "He fucking did what?" And it's like, "Well, you left, and then he told us to do it a different way." I'm like, "You did?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Go back to doing what I told you to do." And then I called the vice president, and I said, "Listen, I'm sitting here at the bar having a margarita, and I just got told you retasked my guys. Now you can fuck off and do this project by yourself, and I'll keep my ass here and not move my shit to Pennsylvania, or you can stay the fuck out of my part of the building for the rest of this project."
So
Which one do you want to do?
Hold that point. So, Lady Mickey, on this one, let's get to your reality, which I think is a lot more out there than his, because of the reality of the position in, businesses, 5 million, 10 million turnover businesses. They don't have these armies of VPs and all of the, I guess, they've got politics, but not like Hewlett-Packard level company politics, I guess. You are dealing with kind of the owners of the business or very close to it. So what are you currently doing in these situations, Mickey? What do you, because the next question is going to be, what's business got to unlearn, so other watchers and listeners can say, how are they going to deal with this situation?
One of the big things, I think, is actually for owners especially, and you're dead right, Mark, because some of these guys are business owners. You can't tell them to get out necessarily, but certainly for them to understand that they're not the specialists. I know the Cowboy would, but they're not the specialists. They don't know it all. And that's another issue that I hit quite a bit. They want control of it, but they don't. They interfere, which is disruptive. And they're not using the people who know and can make the projects, just improve the execution and the implementation of the project so much easier. They like to step in, or they won't take accountability when they need to. There's a whole mess of different issues that you get with these sort of size companies.
So two ways then, that Mickey, and go whichever order they come in your mind. First piece is, what are you currently doing in those situations, just to see you in your challenges, because you're paid to solve some of these problems. But the other piece in me would go, you're already, and often you're coming in further on down the line as the troubleshooter, so there's already a known problem. So it's what are you currently doing to solve this problem? And then the kind of the more helicopter view, the high level view is, what's the BizUnLearned point in our podcast terms? What's business got to do differently? Because whether it's you or even Cowboy's term, but certainly for other project managers, if the bad seed is already in, it's very difficult to turn projects around. And then we go, well, look at all the project failures. Somebody's got to take the stand to get. It's the old doctor's line, isn't it, about jumping in the river to fetch the bodies out, but they never get to go up the river to find out who's pushing the buggers in. So what's A, what you doing, and B, what's your view business has got to do differently or unlearn?
Yeah, so it actually comes more to Cowboy style, where I've got to the point where I'm very honest now with where people are and where their project is and what they need to do to make it better. And sometimes have to be quite forceful in meetings. I've had one of a leadership team member turn around to me and say, have you finished your rant now? Because to make it clear that this just isn't working, because there's so many things you can try, you can put all the plans in place and all the rest of it, but unless they actually wake up and smell the coffee, you actually can't get anywhere. And in some instances have to really walk away, because some people just won't make that change, unfortunately. If you've got a company that accepts what you're saying, and I'm totally on board with it, that it has changed massively. Business has changed massively and continues to do so. Then they've got to be open to hearing, you need to do this differently, and use people that know what they're doing. Cowboy could sort some of these projects out just like that. So it's and what astounds me is if they got somebody like you in, or me, that's a relatively expensive person, and they want us there for a reason. So listen to us. And if they're not, again,
I do that all the time. I'm like, listen, asshole, you called me. So, I'll put my ass back on the bus if you're not going to listen. And this is another reason we do the documentation and phase gate exits and things like this, Mark. I mean, I was on another gig, and the CEO and VP were like, we don't want you to put the change orders in your presentation, and we don't want the team there. And I said, okay, fuck you. And next thing you don't want me to do? And they're like, you're going to do it anyhow? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it anyhow. One, the team did the work. They're going to be there. Two, if someone asks me why it's $7 million instead of $6 million, I'm going to show them the damn change orders that you guys kept putting through. And so that's the way this is going to work, or otherwise I'm going to hit the bus. See you later.
So Mickey, I'm going to keep coming back to, I get that. And I get that, and I'm not a project manager, but I guess I'm a very project manager orientated coach, because I was often the one holding people to the accountability stuff and all of that, the areas that I work in. But in that situation that Cowboy's describing, that is head-on confrontation, which if you are, you or other people that you obviously work around, how much is the contractor project manager, which they typically are in this situation, how much are they going to take it to the mat to really confront the ownership or whatever level of business is approving the project and the funds that go with it? How much are the project managers really going to set? Because if you get this gateway, if you get through this eye of the needle, the project's got a really good chance of succeeding. I'm just concerned that a lot of project managers will never get through this, and it's one of the big problems.
Yeah. Well, how do you see it, Mark? How do you see that? The people getting through?
I'm like a nice version of him, aren't I, really? And that's why you're here, yeah. I mean, again, joking aside, I'm absolutely clear on I know what you're both talking about, and if I was more that change management type consultant when I was doing particularly the big company stuff when we met really in the 90s, and my job was often standing there with international boards and reading psychometrics, reports out that basically said one of them was the asshole that was causing the problem, and I've got to be the one going, you're the problem. Now, I have very subtle ways of putting that across, very English, I guess, in Bill's terms, that he couldn't be bothered about. But I guess it comes down to, and the piece that I'm tracking between the two is, if it doesn't get done, if the bad seed stays, almost anything in a business is very difficult. But on projects that you guys are in, they're just, the record says they fail. So I then go to the other end and try and deal with the managers and get some wins for them and stuff. But if you don't get this done, it's going to fail. And we're trying to talk from a BizUnLearning point of view. How do we get, it almost is a piece that says, in some cases, I think I've been the guy that went in ahead of project managers. And I'd go and do the buy-in or the bloodletting, depending on which. So because in the world I'm from, I don't want to waste the resources and the expense of people like you. But I also think an awful lot of not just project managers, let's just call it all contractors, if they've got something of this nature to really go to the mat on and really confront, they're also concerned that they're going to get fired and lose their 2, 5, and 10 grand. And that's a human reality. So
fuck that. I mean, it's more important to maintain your reputation.
Well, Bill, but given that it's your old name, I call it you Bill, and I'm not meant to, and you're Bill, you're Cowboy Bill. Okay. The fact is, people will say, Bill, and you know it, I got bills to pay. They will.
Yeah, they will. They absolutely will. So you got to deal with the reputation aspect. And from a contractor standpoint, you charge enough so that you only have to work 6 months out of the year. Your bills are paid if you work 6 months out of the year. That's the way you should set up that business, because you never know when the next meal is coming. And that's definitely how it was. And at that point, the people, like I told you once, I worked for the second largest cancer center in the world. And I went in there, and the very first thing the VP said to the whole group, she called the whole department in, and she's like, Cowboy's here, and he's going to tell us what the hell's going on, and he does not give a shit about what we think about how he feels about it. And she just told him that straight up. We want a real world assessment. End of story. And if you're not prepared to do that, don't call me. If you're not prepared to document it, so that it's like, this is your authorization to go forward. This is your charter. You signed this charter. I'm going to go, Mr. CEO, why did I do what I did? Is that your signature? You told me to do it. And that's the end of it as far as I'm concerned. But everybody's gotten too damn nice today with DEI and all of this politically correct bullshit and everything else. I'm like, I don't care about that. And, I got an order to do a job.
Simple.
End of story.
Yeah, but picking up on that, Cowboy, I won't use the other one. It is quite hard here in the UK. People are so politically correct and afraid of complaints, tribunals, etc., that they won't put their neck on the line. And sometimes I'll go into places where I'll give them a realistic view. Not that they want the diagnosis necessarily of a project that I give them, but when you're telling them, you basically need to change staff out. You literally need to remove these staff to be able to succeed. And that's really difficult. Well, no, it's not. You can have protected conversations with them and buy them out. You can put them on pips, because basically these people are usually at a stage where they're just not doing their job anyway.
Sure.
So there are ways around it, but people certainly at leadership levels, I see them very scared almost, or just unwilling to make these changes. And so they'll just let the project fail, or they'll just let things run. And then I see good people walking out of doors because they're working with these idiots and under immense pressure, because you're struggling then to actually get the project to succeed. And the good ones will just walk away. But yeah, I just don't see leadership changing here that fast. And this is why we've got a lot of staff that are just so unsatisfied with working environments now. So, as I say, certainly in the UK.
Sure. I mean, that was always a big thing. I mean, it was the guy I fired in Saudi Arabia. He was the interim PMO manager. He's like, why didn't I get selected? That type of thing. So he was immediately passive aggressive. The country president said, fill out the PowerPoint slides so that the new PMO manager knows who he's dealing with, this, that, anything. He didn't do it. He showed up late. Then I asked him about how he's handling his risk management plan. I already knew where this was going to go. Pack your shit. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, right now. Don't even wait till the end of the day. Go. You're on a plane, because I had to manage the camp there too. And I'm like, and you're out of the camp. So just get off my plane.
That scenario,
Go.
even in large parts of the States that aren't like, other parts, let's say, New York City and stuff, you can't do that fire on the spot. You certainly can't do it here. You can't do it.
No.
Southern states are employment at
Yeah.
will. You're
When I was
correct.
in
And in
Arkansas,
the northern states, you ended up with unions.
You know what it was in Arkansas, he could fire people, and he did like that.
Yep.
In Arkansas. But I can't remember the last time in this country. The closest we got to that was the motor trade, which is a very male industry, and that used to be as close to you're fired. And we used to be called the boxmen, because you'd have to put all their stuff in a box and see them out, because salespeople are trying to take leads with them and stuff. And again, he's going to call me a pussy for this, Mickey, but yeah, he is, because I do believe the job comes first. But I also believe I don't really think many people are deliberately, his terms, asshole. I don't think they set out to be. But I think they then hunker in the job, and it's the old job about, well, is it better to fire them, or is it better to leave them here as a silent cancer in the business? Because whilst there's differences between the UK and US, and other people listening from different parts of the world will apply it to, Ukraine, Bill knows people in all sorts of other interesting places. The fact of the matter is the culture climate does make a difference. So then if you look at it from, we're mainly talking UK projects in your case, and Bill's internationally, then I've worked in some funny places. Then let's go up the line a little bit in terms of ideal world, Mickey. Ideal world, you go into an assignment. What would be in place, and what would you then do? Let's hear your version of that, so that we can play off that, because then we can look at, I think the three of us, that's all, the three of us on the call, have almost got a solution that you're talking about something that isn't just the problem of getting project management to smaller businesses. I think you're touching on something bigger than that we can go into more projects with something. We'll come back to that with people. So just go there. Ideal world. If everything was perfect when you got there, because my view of the world is...
I already know why she's smiling. You want me to answer this? I already know why she's fucking smiling. I already know why.
Just hold on a minute. Because, Mickey, when you get a brain surgeon into an operating theatre, you don't have a little chat with him, and you don't argue about which gas or which blade he's going to use or she's going to use. It's all ready. But in project terms, that is all the stats say it is not the case in business. So how do we get it's ready for the brain set? Because there's no point having people like you involved, as you've said, if the experts can't do their job as uninhibited and unpoliticized by everything else. You're just wasting your time. And as you've said, they're almost willing to let it fail vicariously. So just give us the ideal world shot before he comes in and he thinks you're laughing at.
Well, I wouldn't be there in that ideal world. I think that might be partly why he's laughing. However, if I was going into a company where it was troublesome, I would still want the business owner or leadership to be willing to appreciate that it's in trouble and do something about it alongside me. So a collaboration. So then the whole company would make the change. I'd want to make sure the objectives were in place. The trouble is, what I'm about to say is really Billy basic to me. And I think we've been spouting this off since way before even I was born, which is a long time ago. Have your objectives, make sure they're defined. What are your deliverables? And what are the risks? What's the plan? get that all in place and make sure you know how you're going to measure the success, the KPIs. Yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise, how do you know this damn thing's going to succeed? So have your communication plans in place
also,
as well
Mickey,
for people. Make sure
you did say something important in there, that you both moved on, and I get why you did it, but let's just play ideal world for a second. On the principle of projects and project management, be it from you guys and other people that I work with over the years, executed correctly, are massively proven as the most effective way to get from A to B, whatever B is, the change you want to make. There's no question, nothing comes close to it. But the current score on the doors, even the stated CEO is 70% project failure. So for all this education, academia, all this stuff, we're still failing. So come on then. So, because I almost want you two guys to go, why is it that they're only calling on you two when somebody screwed the pooch in his terms? What about going, wow, this stuff's because again, that's where we're going. We've got a project that we'll maybe finish up around which you're involved with.
Yeah.
But why have we got to create a bloody disaster to get the right people in? And then, we know the way Cowboy's going to do it. He's going to come in, lock people out the building. He's going to get his form signed. But the fact is, we shouldn't be in that problem position in the first place. So that's the fundamental BizUnLearned point.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, I've had teams that have been, take Saudi, for example. They built the team before I ever fucking showed up there. And I'm like, it's not my fault you put a bunch of fucking idiots on the damn team. Fuck you. These guys are gone.
Out of interest, Cowboy, do you find that a lot of teams have a lot of naive people in and very green project managers?
Have you ever read the job description for a project manager? Because I get these emails and I'm reading through these job descriptions and they're written by HR people who have no fucking idea what a project manager is. And so they're trying to hire on requirements that they don't even understand.
Yeah.
Which is why stuff like Saudi, I don't fill out applications. I get hired on reputation. I didn't fill out an application or something. They called me. And those are the jobs that have the better chance of success because they're like, we already know this guy, that type of thing. And he's going to hold my feet to the fire too, that type of thing. And I mean, that first guy I fired, they're like, you got to get approval from the royal family before you fire the motherfucker. And I'm like, oops. Like, my bad. Well, he's gone now. Work it out. I mean, don't be afraid of it. I did that shit all the time. I mean, Mark, your point was right. In the southern states of the U.S., it's employment at will. When I was in Pennsylvania, it was the unions. And so the V calls me into his office and he goes, what did you do to piss off the union? And I'm like, they really weren't getting anything done, so I decided to take care of it. And he's like, well, we've got to go to a hearing now, and you're coming with me. And I'm like, okie dokie. But I'm not going to be afraid to piss somebody off. I'm just not. I'm going to explain they weren't doing their job. I took care of the problem.
So, Mickey, when you look back on some of your clients and stuff, because you've worked with people more than once in various places, you've known people for a while.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What do they hire you for now? Your converts, and particularly the things that you look at and you go, we were able to get a result and turn that around because... What do you look back on the things that, I guess it's kind of the things, everybody's proud of things that didn't take much to do today, but that aside, but seriously, the things that you felt you worked hard to get a serious result from, what were the things that you got that company to understand and do? Because they're their they're right, I hadn't seen that, I didn't understand that. What do you look back on and go, that's what made the difference?
One of the big differences is building the relationships and actually them then knowing you can do it. What Cowboy just said about reputation. If you work with somebody successfully to start off with, that they will come back to you. So looking at how they unlearn something, I think not trying to do it on the cheap, pick somebody that you do get a referral to, having the business knowledge as well, having the scars, the war wounds of projects enables you to go in and say, this is how you should run a project. So even if you mentored some of these other project managers that are really sort of only been in the game 1 to 3 years, I see that quite a lot. And businesses that are supplying project managers in there, and the project, and they're moaning about their own project managers just not being up to the job. So I experience does go a long way, but I certainly think also mentoring these people to make sure they're right on the right track. I'm not sure if that's where you wanted to go with that.
In sort of my industry long-term background, that the coaching industry as is today, big company that we've done a lot of work with, and they work with big company clients, Rio Tinto mines, big international mining companies. And we noticed it maybe 2 years ago, it just became a thing, that they specifically coach middle managers at volume. So hundreds of them in these big companies, but individually, because they found it works better than group training. And the clients, the people being coached, not the people paying the fee, not HR, the people being coached, were complaining that the coaches weren't good enough. And it took quite a while to tease out what it was. They were almost trying to say something, but they didn't know how to say it, properly. And after it took a while, and it eventually got to, they wanted the style of coaching, the get you to come up with your Socratic stuff, as it's Socrates, isn't it? Ask good questions. But they also wanted coaches that had not necessarily done their job, but had more experience in business in general, because they wanted it. What they described was almost more of a mentor that used coaching questions, not people that could ask, how do you feel about that? And get you thinking. They wanted people that could go, well, let me just give you this example of something, of a situation we did, blah, blah, blah. How does that apply to you? And that was the piece that they said, I want that kind of person. But the way you're describing it, and let's cross into it, Bill, based on why you and I are talking, and then also the other reason why we're talking with Mickey is we do think, and some of the evidence suggests, that we've got a solution for a lot of these problems of, if we kind of train these mini project managers, because they're not going to have the experience of you two, but if they're in a system where they work with the clients, but they can make one phone call to you two and are backed up by that level of weight, then that's a system we've used with dentistry in the past, and we've used it with our original financial insurance people in the motor trade. So that's just as we sort of get towards the last few minutes. How does that help the situation if we've got to paint the picture, Mickey? If a guy we trained as this new role integrator, project management light, and whatever experience they've got, and Bill's going to say that they need some critical thinking skills, all the things, and we certainly know relationship stuff that they've got to do. But for me, the fundamental difference is, if in your younger days, not aging you, Mickey, but in your earlier days, if you were going into these clients and you had him in the hub, because I had a Texan when I was a kid in the motor trade, who, when we had a problem with a big motor trade group, Al, his name was, he came in, and he didn't quite have the hat on, but he was a Texan in its true bald form, and he came and I wouldn't have kept the account as a 24-year-old, but he did. So that kind of, we go in as the Trojan horse. We get the resources to where the problem areas are that you've lived, but you've also got the backup of some very, very experienced people. Just let's close around, because we're in that zone, aren't we? We're in that zone, Bill.
Well, I don't know. We had like a 5-minute fuck up at the beginning. I mean, I think we might be off by.
Was it not? You reset it. So So how do we think, guys? You're the ones that have lived this. For me, and I never say I think unless I'm saying, because I don't know yet, I've got evidence that approach transformed the motor trade and transformed dentistry that we worked with right across the states. The 80 different places around the UK where we had the US where we had dental reps that were trained as hygienists, but they had us in the middle to go deal with the dentists who could be very high ego people and real problems, and they largely went fine. That backup. So what's your view, guys, of what? Let's just do a little bit as we towards the close on the integrator project. Can we do Can we help people get this unlearning point across?
Yes.
There you go. You heard it from Bill. Yes, we can. It's done then, Bill. Yeah, thank you.
He'll ask us for the plan next.
And it's a matter of getting back to what's real. I mean, I once I did a phase 1 exit, brought the team in, everything, right? And I got paper, phase exit package, and CEOs at the table and all the executive vice presidents, and the average length of employment at this 100-year-old company was 26 years. That was the average length of employment. And so it was huge. And they were like, okay, I like it. Let's move forward. And I'm like, I tossed the package out there and threw them a pen. And I'm like, okay, everyone sign the damn document and we'll move forward. And they're like, excuse me? And I'm like, sign the fucking piece of paper. And it's like, I've been here for 30 years. I've never signed a fucking package for project exit in my life. And I'm like, it's $7 million. Do you want me to do it? If you want me to do it, then you sign the damn piece of paper. Otherwise, my ass is on the plane back to Texas. I don't give a shit. And they're like, looking at each other going, okay. But I mean, as soon as you put a pen and a piece of paper in front of somebody, they're like, holy shit. And this guy is serious. So we either sign it or we're out of project manager. Fuck you. Don't think that you're in a weak position at any point in life in that spot. Because I'm like, I will walk out the door right now. I don't give a shit. You either sign it or not. Because I am not going to be on the hook for $7 million when you ask me what the hell was going on 2 months from now. I'm going to show you your signature. And they're like, okay. And just that little bit, this structure, this rigidity, this realism can make all the difference in the world. And then after they got through signing, and I'm like, and by the way, the team is off for the rest of the day because this was about noon. And we're going out to the bar, eating some food, and you guys are paying for it. And they're like, okay.
So, Mickey, that last piece, by the way, my English project manager guy that you need to meet us at Lou, when we trained him as a coach, because what he took was his skills as a project manager, and then he took the coaching skills, which he felt made him better able to just communicate. That's what he was doing it for, and he had very clear reasons. And that piece about when Bill says, so we're going out the bar and you're paying, then Lou would say, I learned that there was other ways to enroll people in the project than just take them out and get them drunk. And I go, There you go, Lou. That's called coaching, you see. So I've done my job, and I've saved the client. Everybody getting pissed. In English terms of getting pissed, Bill, of getting drunk. So,
I got it.
So Mickey,
Literally had a guy, an older guy who was near retirement. And he goes, "Cowboy, do I get to go too?" And I'm like, "Yes, asshole, you're on the team." Okay. And then there were other people going, "You can't do this." The last guy was vice president of engineering. He did this and got fired. And I'm like, "Well, then fuck you. I'll go back to Texas. I'm going to the bar. You going or not?"
What I love about this so much is that if you actually have a bunch of people, Cowboy is you're just great. Your style, but it's very in your face. It is very matter of fact, and this is what we're going to do. I'm probably a little gentler than you, and I don't drink beer so much. But it's also having the access to people, your friend, colleague as well, Mark, that have all this wealth of experience, have the coaching skills as well, that could really, really help some of these projects succeed, and the project managers also enable them to grow. So I really think
that's closing question, really, Mickey, isn't it? Is so because you're coming on board to help us with the project of taking in project integrator to the marketplace. So for you still work in projects and do the things that you do. Having this as a resource that you're going to be able to increasingly influence and put yourself in the position to make a point that you're dealing with a tricky client situation, and you're in the position when you go, well, let's get Uncle Cowboy on the phone. Because joking aside, that's what I could do with Al back in the day. Oh my God, they're going to throw me out the building, Al. What do I do? And next day he's in there, and he was a big, imposing man, and he just nicely, in the Texan way, persuaded them that they should keep us on, and then the rest is history. How does having that facility, almost looking at it from your perspective, as well as then the people we're going to train up, how do you think that helps out there in the world?
Oh, good. Massively. As I say, it's that experience and having a group of people that you can pull in, that right person for the job, for whatever you need. That's an immense pot of gold. So it's that, do you want your project to succeed, or do you want a project manager? Which is it?
That's a good distinction.
Yeah.
It's.
I mean, this is exactly why I said, Mark, I would really like to pull Marines and Navy SEALs who are coming out of the damn military into a transitionary project management program, because they are more apt to say, fuck you. Are you out of your mind? They've got the personality. We live in a certification world where you end up with people who are trained to take a damn test, PMPs and certified Scrum Masters and all this shit. And at the end of the day, they don't know a fucking thing.
Judged on that, Cowboy. Literally, if you go for a job as a project manager, not necessarily got the accreditation, but you've got all these years' experience. But no, you're cast aside for somebody who's got 1 year and an accreditation. Yeah. How does that work?
So in that sense, Mickey, we've got the ability of us pooling resources means we can go in at a higher level and break that, because if I open the subject on HR or into a whole other different kind of worms, but let's just let it be a process that's out there currently that we don't want to. We're not saying they're the baddies, but unfortunately they are the carriers of all of this, let's call it bureaucracy. And then the companies detach from the decision making and then make it HR's problem. We're going to go in at CEO level or C-suite level and come down through this, because to make the kind of change that, and it's where you opened up, Mickey, job number one is the leadership is not fully committed, and the people doing it know they're not fully committed. There you go. You virtually got a guaranteed failure on your hands at that point. That's what we've got to change. Well, there you go.
Yeah, and often you end up with VPs and directors trying to bring you in, and it's like, fuck you. Does the CEO know? Does the CEO know about this? Because I'm not managing up for you.
Yeah.
Piss off.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if the CEO knows about this, the next meeting I have today better be with him. You know, and that's the difference. You know, you manage from the top down. I mean, when I hit Saudi, it was the country president that picked me up at the damn airport. I'm like, you manage from the top down, period.
Well, guys,
and otherwise it doesn't
looks
work.
like we've got a big job. Be a fun one.
It's always fun.
But Mickey, thank you for your time as usual. You went to exactly the place that I thought you would in terms of that. That's what the coal face is like. My wife's the skin clinic type place, and because she's been in business and she just happens to have stumbled into this job, and if you could see what they were hiring as receptionists, a skin clinic, kind of nice place. Everybody's dressed smartly, and they're some of the people they were hiring. So they go to Ellen and they start saying, "Do you think you could help hire on the receptionist?" And you go, "It's 2025. Have you not got a process for this?" And then they hire these people, and they can't hire them, or they won't fire them. So we got to go up the line, guys. So the job's there for us to do if we're man and woman and enough to do it. Take us out, Cowboy.
So I will leave you. I'll leave you with this project that we did, and it involved alcohol at one time too. Okay, so some people were calling us up because they couldn't get these girls out of their house that they're trying to break up with, and so we started a business in Texas called Extract-A-Hoe. And we created new T-shirts and stuff like that. And it's like, in the future, guys, gotta ask some basic questions here. Do you have a job? Do you have a car? Do you have any warrants? Do the police want you? We ran a commercial, everything.
Yeah, not your typical job interview.
That's a whole different business right there.
All right.
So we did all sorts of projects.
As they say, enough of such badinage. Take us out.
Mickey, how do they find you? Okay, if someone wants to find you, how do they find you?
Well, you can email me on mickey@sphereit.com, or I'm on LinkedIn. Just look up Mickey Keene.
Good job. Good job. All right. Well, guys, that's another episode for us, which kind of had some false starts in it, but that's okay. I mean, we might get some good clips out of it. Okay. This is Cowboy once again. Remember to like, comment, and share. We love the love, and let's get her done this week.
See you next time.
See ya.